Hi everyone and welcome to GGCtoday, the channel dedicated to making difficult Bible concepts easier to understand, but more importantly, making God into something more practical and accessible. So with that said, I'm your host Jorge Martinez and let's get started. Heroes of the faith, the most talked about and bragged about people ever. These people are some of the most well-known characters in history and are especially praised for the moral standard of life that they lived. But do they really live up to all the hype that people put on them? Some people certainly think that they do, but that's why we're here, to take a deep look at these so-called heroes and really see if they live up to the standard that everybody places on them. And the first victim on our list is probably the biggest of them all, King David. Now this dude is remembered as being the human being that has come the closest to having a heart like that of God. And I mean, this is the guy whom God chose that Jesus Christ, the Savior of this world, would come out of his own bloodline. And that's not something to take lightly when profiling him, but that's precisely where his profile starts getting a bit ugly. Yes, Jesus descends from King David, but he descends from David's relationship with Bathsheba, a woman that David committed adultery with. And this is where you start wondering, how is it possible that the Holy Savior from this world descends from an adulterous relationship? I mean, hold on, because that's not the only shocker here. If you take a look at how this adultery started, the story gets much worse than that. One day, David's out in the courtyard walking about and he sees a beautiful woman bathing. And instead of, saying, "Ain't nobody got time for that," and doing the right thing, which is walk away, he does some digging and finds out that she's married to one of his soldiers who is out fighting a war for him. And David, being the genius that he is, thinks, if that guy's not here, then that means that she's alone. And if I get her pregnant, all I have to do is take out plan B, call the soldier back, and everything will be nice and fine and nobody will ever find out. So David sends some people to take Bathsheba. Yeah, he took her and later finds out that he gets her pregnant. So David pulls out plan B and calls the soldier back so that he goes with Bathsheba and thinks that he's the father. But there's a little problem. The soldier doesn't want to go home. This dude wanted to keep on fighting, and he told David, how can I go home with my wife when there's a war to fight for? I can't go home. And David tried everything he could to force him back home. He even got him drunk. But even drunk, this guy was bleeding red, white, and blue and did not want to go home. So David takes out plan C. Send him back to the war and put him at the very front of the battle, where he will surely be killed. David even ordered for the other soldiers to pull away from him so that he would be an easier target to kill. That's a little douchey, don't you think? And yeah, in case you were wondering, the soldier gets killed. David marries Bathsheba, Bathsheba has a kid, and David thought that his tracks were well covered. But here's the problem. You can hide stuff from other people, but you can't pull a fast one on God. And God was not very happy at all with David. I mean, just look at the list of commandments that David broke. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. In other words, you shall not lie. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. 5 out of 10 commandments were broken. Half. If life had a grade point average, David would be at 50% right now. So no, God was not happy at all. And as punishment, that baby that he had with Bathsheba, he dies. So this is where many people would think that this story would end. The consequences. Some could even argue that he got off easy. God could have easily replaced him with someone, more obedient. But he doesn't. This story doesn't end here. On the contrary, God gives David and Bathsheba another kid. And that kid is Solomon, who would go on to become king after David and one of the most prominent figures in history with extraordinary wealth and power and wisdom. Then generations later, Jesus Christ would be born from this very bloodline. In other words, they landed on their feet quite well. And this leaves me with one question. Why? David performed one of the worst and most terrible acts in history, and yet God still did all this to him. Why? I'll tell you why. And this is something that nobody talks about. Maybe we've been looking at heroes of the faith all wrong. Maybe it's not about how good these people were, but rather how God reacted to their humanity. Let me explain. I don't think there is a coincidence that Jesus, the Savior of this world, descended from a relationship founded on adultery, murder, and all these other bad things. Because check it, where there were terrible mistakes, there were consequences. And where there were consequences, there was a need of redemption from those mistakes. And to me, it's amazing how God planned so many good things to come out of a boneheaded error, because that shows that even when we have done something so horribly wrong like David, God is not only willing to turn our life back around, but has a legitimate plan to do so in our future. David went from being a man surrounded by guilt to being the father of the son of his dreams, who would go on to accomplish everything that he wanted to do. And Bathsheba, she went from a widow in shame who lost both her husband and son to the mother of the most prominent man in history. And later, Jesus would come out of that bloodline. So despite what was broken or ruined, God was able to piece that back together to a new and better life. And that tells you everything you need to know about how God feels about you and your errors. His only desire is to help you get back up. So hero or zero? David in this story qualifies as a big, fat zero. But I'm thankful for that, because stories like these remind us that even they were human, and that even though they screwed up big time like we do, God was there to provide a way back, which is good news to us little people, because this sheds a lot of light on who God is and how he is. He isn't someone that's actively looking to smite you, but rather he's someone that's actively looking to guide us, to help us through even those tough moments when we were at fault. So this has been GGC Today. I hope you not only had a great time, but that this was able to lighten up your day. Please don't forget to like this video. Also, just so that you know, we're trying a lot of new things with this channel, so we'll probably be uploading every week or so, or every 2 weeks or so. We don't exactly have that set yet, but so that you can stay tuned, please click on that subscribe button so that you are notified every time that we release something. Oh, and if you want more of this Hero versus Hero series, feel free to comment below. You'd be surprised how many heroes that are actually zeros exist out there. But anyways, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you next time. Just gonna go up, please. I like the smell of this hotel.